Ladies and gentlemen, daughters of destiny, I came to talk to the woman who's tired of pretending. The one who puts on a smile like it's armor, but inside, she's breaking apart piece by piece. You've clapped for others while you've cried in silence. You've carried the weight of the world and called it just being strong. But God didn't create you to suffer in secret. He did not design you to smile while your soul is suffocating. Stop being the woman who smiles through silent pain. Stop masking your wounds with makeup and your heart etched with hustle. You've mastered the art of appearing fine, but God is calling you to be real. Not perfect, because healing doesn't happen in hiding. Restoration doesn't show up where there's performance. It shows up where there's surrender. You were not created to be everyone's answer while you bleed in unanswered questions. You keep giving from an empty cup, praying nobody notices the cracks. The truth is you're exhausted. You're running on fumes, and heaven sees it. You're trying to hold your family together, push through work, keep the ministry afloat, be the good friend, the dependable daughter. But when do you get to breathe? Listen. There's nothing holy about burnout. There's nothing noble about hiding your struggle. God never asked you to die in silence while carrying burdens that were never yours to bear alone. You don't need another motivational quote. You need freedom, and that freedom starts when you stop pretending and start healing. You've been silent long enough. You've been silent long enough. You've cried behind closed doors long enough. You've apologized for your feelings long enough. It's time to break the silence. It's time to speak the truth. It's time to let God heal the part of you that pain tried to bury. Today, I dare you to say, I'm not okay, and that's okay. I dare you to release the pressure to perform. I dare you to rest, to cry, to talk, to heal, to say no, to ask for help, to lay down what's killing you softly and walk boldly into wholeness. Too many women have been taught that silence is noble, that holding it together, no matter how broken you feel, is a badge of honor, that if you just smile through the storm, bury the ache, push through the pain, somehow that makes you strong. But I'm here to tell you silent suffering is not strength. It is a slow erosion of the soul. It is a daily betrayal of your own humanity, your needs, your emotions, and your truth. We live in a world that praises performance but ignores pain. It applauds your ability to keep going, to multitask, to show up with your hair done and your face made up while your heart quietly weeps underneath it all. It says, she's so strong. When you go to work the morning after heartbreak, it says, she's such a warrior when you handle crisis with grace and don't shed a tear. But what it doesn't ask is, how much has it cost you to keep pretending you're okay? Strength is not the absence of struggle. Real strength is not built in silence, it's built in honesty. It's formed in the places where we allow ourselves to feel, to speak, to grieve, and to heal. Yet somewhere along the way, many women have been conditioned to think that being quiet about their pain is spiritual, admirable, or mature. Crying is weakness. That vulnerability is dangerous, that you just have to push through. Because that's what strong women do. Silence does not heal wounds. Silence conceals them. And what you conceal, you cannot confront. What you refuse to speak, you cannot surrender. What you deny, you carry, until the weight of it suffocates who you are. There is a unique exhaustion that comes from smiling while you're bleeding, from giving while you're empty, from nodding while you're numb, from encouraging others while secretly praying someone would notice the storm inside you. Exhaustion does not come from strength. It comes from suppression, from not being allowed to feel without judgment, from not having a safe place to fall apart, from feeling like your worth is tied to your ability to keep it all together. Somewhere, someone told you that breaking down was not an option, that you had to be the strong one for your family, your job, your church, your children, your friends. You learn to swallow your tears, bite your tongue, and carry the load. But what they didn't tell you is that your silence is slowly breaking you. That the more you suppress, the more you sink. That the more you avoid your pain, the more it controls you. You were not created to survive in survival mode. God didn't design you to wear strength like a mask while you're dying inside. He designed you to live fully, and that includes the full expression of your emotions. Even Jesus wept. Even he withdrew to be alone. Even he cried out in agony. So why do you think your tears are a problem? Why do you think your silence makes you spiritual? The problem with silent suffering is that it turns your pain into a prison. A prison where you can't ask for help. A prison where you second guess your emotions. A prison where you feel unworthy of support, love, or care unless you've earned it by suffering quietly. Strength, real strength, says, I'm not okay right now. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. Strength says, I need a moment. I need to process. I need someone to stand with me. Strength says, my silence is not protecting me. It's punishing me. Real strength is not a clenched jaw and a forced smile. It is the courage to be seen, to be known, and to be held when you're hurting. There's a version of you that you hidden beneath your composure. The tired version, the anxious version, the broken version, the grieving version. That version doesn't need more silence. She needs to be heard. She needs your attention, your compassion, your honesty. She needs you to tell the truth, not to everyone, but at least to yourself. Because the cost of pretending is too high. It's costing you your joy, your peace, your rest. It's robbing you of intimacy and honesty. It's creating emotional isolation in rooms full of people. You're surrounded yet unseen, supported yet still sinking, because no one can hold space for a pain they don't know exists. So let this be your wake-up call, your permission slip, your turning point. Stop equating suffering and silence with strength. Start choosing honesty over image. Start choosing healing over hiding. You are not strong because you suffer quietly. You are strong because you survive, but even stronger when you thrive. And thriving means getting real. It means allowing yourself to cry when it hurts, speak when you're overwhelmed, and pause when you're worn out. Thriving means you don't wait for a breakdown to begin the breakthrough. You don't need to prove your strength by breaking yourself. You don't have to suffer in silence to be valuable, loved, or worthy. You don't have to be the one who always has it together. You are allowed to unravel. You are allowed to need help. You are allowed to fall apart. And most importantly, you are allowed to heal. So take off the mask, lay down the burden. Let someone in. Let God into the parts of your heart that silence has protected for far too long. Let your pain speak so your healing can begin. Because in the end, it's not your silence that makes you strong. It's your honesty, your courage, and your willingness to choose wholeness over hiding. You've worn the mask long enough. You've smiled through tears long enough. It's time to be free. It's time to be real. It's time to stop suffering in silence and start walking in strength. Real, unfiltered, unapologetic healing strength. The kind that doesn't demand silence but invites truth. The kind that sets you free. There comes a moment in every strong woman's life when she begins to feel the weight of everything she's carrying and questions whether she was ever meant to carry it all in the first place. She's been the anchor in every storm, the rock in every crisis, the go-to for everyone else's emergencies. She's held families together, peace in places where chaos lived, and provided support for people who never thought to check on her in return. But somewhere deep within, beneath the layers of responsibility and resilience, she begins to wonder, hey, who carries me? Let me tell you something that may just shift your soul. You were never created to carry everyone's burdens alone. That was never the assignment. That was never God's design. And yet, many women have embraced this false theology of self-sacrifice that glorifies exhaustion and calls it strength. You've convinced yourself that saying yes, even when it costs you peace, is godly. That being the strong one means never asking for help. That love means fixing, rescuing, carrying, and constantly showing up even when you're running on empty. But there's nothing holy about burnout. There's nothing righteous about losing yourself in the name of helping others. Yes, you're called to serve. Yes, you're called to care. You are not called to be the savior. That position has already been filled. So many of us are walking around with invisible backpacks stuffed full of other people's problems. We're carrying the emotional weight of our children, our spouses, our friends, our ministries, our communities. We're losing sleep over decisions that aren't even ours to make. We're stressing about outcomes that are beyond our control. And while our hearts may be in the right place, our boundaries are not. You are not designed to be everyone's answer. You are not created to be the one who fixes everything all the time. There is a difference between helping and overextending, between compassion and codependency, between support and self-neglect. And if you're honest, you've been crossing those lines for far too long. What happens when you carry what's not yours? You begin to crack. You begin to confuse purpose with pressure. You begin to resent the very people you once loved to serve. Because your soul knows when you're out of alignment. Your body knows when it's overworked. Your spirit knows when it's being stretched beyond what it was designed to hold. Even Jesus had limits. He withdrew from crowds. He rested. He didn't heal every single person in every town he passed through. He knew when to say no. So if the Son of God operated with boundaries, why do you think you're supposed to be available to everyone at all times? You've got to understand there is nothing wrong with being a woman who loves deeply, gives generously, and serves faithfully. But there is something deeply wrong with thinking you are required to be the emotional dumping ground for every person in your life. That's not love, that's martyrdom. That's not ministry, that's self-erasure. You were never meant to carry everyone's burdens. Scripture says, bear one another's burdens, not carry them all by yourself until you collapse. It's about shared weight. It's about mutual support. It's about community. Not one woman holding up the world while no one even notices she's sinking. Sometimes we wear our over-functioning like a badge. Think being the strong one makes us worthy. We find our identity in being the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who gets things done. Let me ask you, who are you without all the responsibility? Who are you without the title of caretaker, fixer, provider, emotional supporter? If you've wrapped your worth around how much you carry, then putting some things down will feel like failure. But it's not failure. It's freedom. Freedom to be human, freedom to be whole, freedom to rest without guilt, freedom to say, I love you, I can't hold this for you anymore. It's okay to not pick up every phone call. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not attend every event, fix every crisis, or show up for every single person who expects you to. Because every time you say yes to what drains you, you're saying no to what sustains you. You were not created to carry everyone's burdens alone, and here's the truth. You're not helping them by grow either. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face their own consequences. Sometimes what someone else needs is not your rescue, but your release. Your stepping back might be the very thing that forces them to step up. Your no might be the space they need to meet God on their own. So let this be your reminder, your wake-up call, your gentle conviction, you are not God. You are not their savior. You are not required to carry what is crushing you just to keep others comfortable. Lay it down. You were not created to carry everyone's burdens alone. You were created to walk with God side by side with others, carrying your load and sharing theirs, not absorbing them completely. You were created for community, not codependency. You were made for connection, not emotional exhaustion. There's something dangerous about pretending. It seems harmless at first. A fake smile here, a quiet nod there, a dismissive, I'm fine, when you're anything but. Pretending becomes a defense mechanism, a shield, a coping strategy for the woman who feels like she has no other choice. But over time, what feels like protection becomes a prison, and that prison will cost you your peace, your identity, and your healing. Because the truth is simple but powerful. Pretending prevents healing. Too many women have become experts at hiding, not just from people, but from themselves. They've learned to suppress emotions with such skill that even their hearts forget what truth feels like. They've convinced themselves that if they can just push it down far enough, they'll be okay. But wounds ignored don't disappear. They deepen. And when pain is left untreated, it doesn't just stay silent, it festers. It shows up in anxiety, in anger, in exhaustion, and in bitterness. Even when the body looks fine, the soul is screaming. You see, pretending is easy for a while. It allows you to keep functioning. You go to work. You care for others. You laugh at the right moments. You keep up appearances. But inside, you're falling apart in places nobody can see. The longer you pretend, the harder it becomes to speak your truth. The longer you act like it doesn't hurt, the more isolated and invisible you become. You perform to protect your image. You pretend so others won't worry. You smile so people won't ask questions you're not ready to answer. You downplay your trauma, your loss, your grief, your disappointment because somewhere along the way you were taught that honesty makes you weak. That being real is too much. That vulnerability is dangerous. But how can you heal what you won't confront? How can you recover from a pain you keep disguising? You can't bandage a wound you never reveal. You can't fix what you pretend isn't broken. Healing demands truth, and truth requires courage. And what's worse, you start attracting people who are in love with your mask, not your truth. You surround yourself with individuals who are comfortable with your performance but would leave if they saw your pain. And deep down, you know it. So you keep pretending, you keep performing, and in doing so you keep bleeding internally, silently, desperately. But you can't pretend forever. Eventually, the weight of unspoken pain will crush you. Eventually, your soul will demand attention. Your truth will fight to be heard. Your emotions will break through the cracks of your composure. And when that happens, don't call it a breakdown. Call it a breakthrough. The tears you've been holding back, they're not weakness. They're release. The pain you've been ignoring, it's not an interruption, it's an invitation. An invitation to finally sit with what hurts, to face what happened, to grieve what was lost, to process what you survived. Because pretending robs you of presence. When you're always acting, you're never truly living. You're stuck in survival mode, not freedom. You're stuck managing perceptions instead of nurturing your truth. But healing requires that you take off the mask, that you get quiet enough to hear your own soul, that you face the uncomfortable truths. You allow yourself to feel everything you've been trying not to feel. It's messy, it's raw, it's real. But it's necessary. Pretending delays the inevitable. It creates a false reality that's bound to collapse. It builds walls that not even love can climb. Healing can't reach you in hiding. You were never meant to live a life of performance. You were not designed to go through the motions while your heart stays on pause. You were created to live authentically, to feel deeply, to process pain, to grow stronger, not by pretending it didn't happen, but by learning how to rise from it. So many women are walking around emotionally exhausted, spiritually depleted, mentally overwhelmed, and still pretending they're fine, still saying yes when they're screaming nah inside, still smiling at the world while crying on the inside, still carrying trauma like it's normal, still wearing the strong woman badge like it's a crown, when really it's a chain. Healing starts with honesty. It starts when you stop editing your story to make others comfortable. It begins when you allow yourself to feel every emotion, not just the pretty ones. It grows when you find the courage to say, I'm not okay and I need help. You don't have to tell everyone your story, but you have to stop lying to yourself. You have to look in the mirror and say, this happened. It hurt. I'm not over it, but I'm willing to start healing. You don't owe anyone a performance. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You don't have to suppress your pain to be accepted. You don't have to pretend to be okay just to make others feel comfortable. So today, if you're tired of pretending, let this be your permission to stop. Let this be the moment you choose healing over hiding. Let this be the season you take off the mask, sit with your truth, and start the journey back to yourself. World that often rewards composure and punishes vulnerability. It's easy to internalize the idea that emotions are a liability, especially if you're a woman. Too emotional, too sensitive, too reactive, too dramatic. The words are subtle, but the damage is deep. And over time, you begin to question yourself. You begin to wonder if what you feel is too much. You start to silence your emotions for the sake of peace, acceptance, and survival. But let this be a reminder spoken with power and love. Your emotions are valid. Every tear you've cried, every surge of anger, every wave of fear, every moment of sadness or joy or pain, it all matters. You were never created to be a robot. You were never intended to live life numb or detached. God created you with emotion, not as a flaw, but as a feature. Emotions are part of your divine design. They are indicators, not irritants. They tell you what's happening in your heart, in your mind, and in your spirit. Yet, we're often taught to hide them. As young girls, some of us were told, don't cry, be strong, fix your face, calm down, don't take things so personally. Slowly but surely, those messages convinced us that emotions were something to be ashamed of. That feeling deeply meant we were weak or unstable or less than. So we stuffed our emotions into silence. We smiled when we wanted to scream. We laughed when we wanted to break. We stayed quiet when our hearts were begging to be heard. Your emotions do not make you fragile. They make you human. They are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of life. Pain means you cared. Anger means a boundary was crossed. Fear often points to a need for safety. Joy is a sign of being present. Grief is the cost of loving deeply. Your emotions are not random. They are messages, and ignoring them doesn't make you stronger. It makes you disconnected. You cannot grow if you do not acknowledge what's happening inside you. Suppressing emotions doesn't lead to healing. It leads to internal chaos. What you suppress will eventually resurface, often louder, messier, and in ways you never intended. Anxiety, burnout, bitterness, even physical illness, these are often the byproducts of buried emotions that were never given a voice. To heal, you must feel. To process, you must pause long enough to recognize what's going on in your heart. And you must do so without judgment. Too many women judge themselves for their emotional responses. They say things like, I shouldn't be this upset, or it's not that serious, or I need to just get over it. But here's the truth, you feel what you feel. There is no shame in that. When you validate your emotions, you create space for healing. You give yourself permission to be honest. You learn to identify what's really going on beneath the surface. You stop performing and start processing. You stop dismissing yourself and start honoring yourself. It doesn't mean your emotions should control you, but they should be respected. You can feel anger without lashing out. You can feel sadness without falling apart. You can feel overwhelmed without quitting. Validation is not indulgence. It's acknowledgement. It's saying, what I feel is real and it matters. Let's be clear. Validating your emotions doesn't mean everything you feel is accurate in context. Sometimes your emotions may be responding to trauma, triggers, or old wounds. Even when the reaction is bigger than the situation, the emotion is still valid because it's real to you. And that reality deserves care, not condemnation. Too often, women wear emotional restraint like a crown. We're praised for being calm under pressure, unbothered, stoic. And while those traits have their place, they should not come at the expense of authenticity. You are allowed to express your feelings. You are allowed to say, I'm hurt, I'm afraid, I'm not okay. You are allowed to feel deeply and still be powerful. Being emotional does not make you irrational. Being expressive does not make you unstable. Being honest about how you feel does not make you a burden. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are human, and that's a good thing. And let's take this further. If your emotions are valid, so is your need for emotional safety. You deserve to be around people who don't shame you for how you feel. You deserve relationships where you can be fully yourself, tears, anger, joy, and all. You deserve spaces where emotional honesty is welcome, not weaponized. If you've been made to feel small because of your feelings, that shame fall off you now. Let go of the guilt for crying too much. Let go of the regret for speaking your truth. Let go of the fear that being honest will make you unlovable. The right people will not only handle your emotions, they'll honor them. And even when others fail to understand, you must choose to be faithful to your own heart. Start by tuning in. When you feel something rise within you, pause and ask, what am I really feeling? Where is this coming from? What do I need right now? That kind of self-awareness is a game changer. It leads to clarity, to healing, to peace. It allows you to move through life not as a closed-off shell, but as a whole, vibrant, emotionally intelligent woman. It's okay to feel. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be joyful, hopeful, angry, hurt, excited, scared. It's okay to wake up one day full of peace and the next day feeling off. That doesn't make you unstable. It makes you alive. So the next time someone tries to shame you for feeling deeply, remember this: you are not a problem to be fixed. You are a person to be understood. And your emotions, every single one, are valid. You don't have to apologize for being human. You don't have to suppress your truth to make others comfortable. You don't have to carry the weight of emotional perfection. You just have to show up honestly and fully, because that is where real healing begins. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. To many, it sounds like weakness, exposure, or fragility. It feels risky, uncertain, and unsafe. We've been taught to guard our hearts, to keep a tight grip on our emotions, to reveal just enough to appear strong, but not so much that we seem needy. But the deeper truth is this: freedom does not come from hiding. Freedom comes through vulnerability. There is no healing without openness. There is no breakthrough without honesty. There is no freedom without the courage to be seen as you truly are, not as who others expect you to be, not as who you perform to be, as your authentic self. And vulnerability is the doorway to that authenticity. Too many of us are walking through life in masks. We smile when we want to cry. We say, "I'm fine," when we're breaking inside. We pretend to be strong when we're barely holding on. Why? Because we fear judgment. We fear abandonment. We fear being seen and rejected, so we hide behind roles, responsibilities, titles, and appearances, and yet deep inside, we long to be known. We ache for connection. We crave spaces where we can exhale and simply be, flawed, unfinished, and still worthy. Freedom is not found in the absence of struggle, in the presence of truth. And truth demands vulnerability. It means standing in your story without shame. It means saying, "This is who I am. This is what I've been through. This is where I still need healing." That kind of honesty terrifies our pride, but it liberates our soul. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's courage in action. It's choosing to show up with your wounds, your awareness, your worries. It's allowing yourself to be fully known, even if that means risking being misunderstood. It's being brave enough to say, "I don't have it all together." Brave enough to ask for help. Brave enough to stop pretending and start healing. When you refuse to be vulnerable, you stay stuck. You live guarded, closed off, emotionally distant. You build walls so high that not even love can reach you. You become a fortress, but a lonely one, and deep down, that armor becomes a cage. Because no matter how strong your walls are, if they're built out of fear, they're not protecting you, they're imprisoning you. True strength is not in how well you hide your pain, it's in how deeply you are willing to face it. Vulnerability is the soil where healing grows, it's where connection is born, it's where shame dies and grace lives. The moment you say, "This is my truth," you disarm the lies. The moment you let yourself be seen, the chains of perfectionism begin to fall. You can't fully experience love without vulnerability. Love requires risk. It demands openness. It asks you to let someone in, not just into the curated, filtered parts of your life, but into the real, raw, sometimes messy parts too. And while that feels scary, it's also where the deepest connection happens. You don't need someone who loves your mask. You need someone who sees your scars and stays. Even with God, vulnerability is essential. He doesn't need your perfection. He wants your presence. He doesn't heal what you hide. He heals what you bring to him. And while he already knows your pain, past your fears, he still invites you to bring them to him willingly. That's vulnerability. That's freedom. Freedom says, "I don't have to pretend anymore." Freedom says, "I can let go of the image and embrace who I really am." Freedom says, "I am enough even when I'm still healing." That kind of freedom doesn't come from hiding your heart. It comes from opening it. Vulnerability also teaches you grace. When you're honest about your own struggles, you become more compassionate toward others. You stop expecting perfection from yourself and from those around you. You learn to say, "Who met too?" instead of "What's wrong with you?" And in that shared humanity, relationships deepen. But let's be honest, vulnerability costs something. It's not always safe with everyone. Not everyone can handle your truth. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. That doesn't mean you stop showing up as your real self. It means you learn discernment, not denial. You find safe spaces, not silence. You build relationships rooted in trust, not performance. And yes, vulnerability may sometimes lead to pain. You might get hurt. You might be misunderstood. Even then, there is freedom, because there's nothing more painful than living inauthentically. There's nothing more suffocating than pretending. And even if vulnerability costs you something, it always offers more than it takes. It offers peace. It offers connection. It offers healing. It offers freedom. You were not created to live closed off. You were not made to perform for love, to hide for acceptance, or to silence your truth to fit in. You were created to be free, and that freedom flows through vulnerability. It's okay to be seen. It's okay to say, I don't have it all together. It's okay to let the walls come down. You don't have to carry the weight of perfection. You don't have to bear the burden of silence. You don't have to wear the mask anymore. Take a deep breath and come back to yourself, to your heart, to your truth, to your God. Be vulnerable, not recklessly, but intentionally. Find the people who can hold your truth with care. Speak your story without shame. Live in a way that honors your emotions, your past, and your process. Because freedom doesn't live in the shadows. It lives in the light. It lives in truth. It lives in vulnerability. So be bold enough to be real, brave enough to be seen, strong enough to feel, and free enough to say, this is me, and I am worthy. Even here, even now,